This is KOOP HD1 HD3 Hornsby, radio for people, not for profit. Welcome to Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show. Each week, we explore how your library is more than books. The library is knowledge, technology, and inspiration for our community. Hey there, listeners. Today we welcome the Austin History Center two Austin History Center archivists, Amanda Jasso and Ayshea Khan. And we're going to be talking a little bit about Women's History Month and kind of talking about women in the context of women as female role models and female leaders in Austin's history, things like that. So first of all, I would like to welcome both of you.
Thanks. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming. So I guess maybe just to give us a little context about if you would maybe starting with you, Amanda, just introduce yourself and your title and kind of talk a little bit about what an archivist does or what you do in your role.
Sure, yeah. So my name's Amanda Jasso. I am a community archivist at the Austin History Center, and that essentially means that, I've been specially trained in collecting, preserving, documenting and promoting different kinds of records. So this can include government records, but also personal, family, and organizational records as well. We work with over 2 million photographs, paper documents, maps, films, and digital materials. And my role especially is concerned with working with underrepresented communities and Latinx communities throughout Austin and Travis County.
Thank you. Yeah, that's so important because a lot of times we were just mentioning earlier before the show started how a lot of those stories have not been heard as widely or as publicly as they should be.
Absolutely.
And now Ayshea Khan, will you introduce yourself and talk about your title and your role?
Yes, so my name is Ayshea Khan. I just started as the Asian American Community Archivist at the Austin History Center just last month. I'm very excited to join the public library system. And my background is in filmmaking, but I went to school at UT School of Information and got a degree in libraries and archives there. And I'm really excited to join the Austin History Center to work more closely with the Asian American community in Austin that has had a presence in the city since the late 1800s. So it's been a really exciting journey these past few weeks, just learning how diverse and rich the history is at the Austin History Center as well.
Absolutely. Well, and then sort of like continuing with that thread, can you talk a little bit about the growing Asian American population in Austin?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I mentioned, some of the earliest Chinese Americans date back to 1890. You had Joe Sing, who started a laundromat on West 5th Street that serviced a lot of Texas legislators and Austinites in the area. You also had, in 1906, the Lung family moved from Calvert, Texas, to open the Joe Lung Cafe, and their daughter was sort of the scholar of the family, and she got her bachelor's and master's degree in 1927 from UT and served as a missionary to China for most of her life.
Wow.
And since that time, there were only a handful of Asian Americans back then, but now the Asian American community is the fastest growing Asian American population in the nation's largest 30 cities. The population is doubling every 12 years. We have a large concentration of Indian Americans, Japanese Americans, folks from Vietnam. We have refugee communities from Nepal, Cambodia, and Laos. So it's a really thriving community and actually has one of the highest median incomes in the city. So they have a really strong voice. They have a lot of resources, educational and financial privilege that can be used to help other disenfranchised communities here in Austin.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really it's really interesting. I also heard that you are a volunteer as an oral historian for the South Asian American Digital Archive. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So the South Asian American Digital Archive is a little different. When we think of traditional archives, we imagine a space like the History Center that has a physical location where you can go maybe to a reading room, and they might have a library and a place where you can dig through physical materials. The South Asian American Digital Archive exists purely online. All of the archival materials come to the SADA headquarters where they are digitized, and then so anyone across the country can access these materials. And it really came from sort of the spirit of the community archive, where we're realizing that a lot of histories were left undocumented, and especially South Asian American history in particular for this case. And my job as an oral historian was part of a First Days project, which collects oral histories from immigrants from all over the world describing their very first day in the United States. It's a really beautiful project, and they have an interactive map where you can click across the globe and hear folks talk about their very first day, because it can be an exciting, oftentimes scary, overwhelming experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. So for those people just joining us, this is Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show, and we're on Co-op 91.7 FM, and we're streaming at koop.org. And there are details about this show online at library.austintexas.gov/volumes. And another thing people might not know is that the Austin History Center is a part of the Austin Public Library, and that's why we have archivists from the Austin History Center here with us today. And because it's Women's History Month, we are talking about women's history and, how, y'all are also role models for the community as women, as archivists, with your careers. So actually, I wanted to focus this question on you, Amanda. Can you talk to our listeners a little bit about Lorraine Castro Camacho and her role in our community as a female leader?
Yeah, absolutely. She was lovingly known as Grandma Camacho all over Austin, but probably specifically in East Austin. She was born in Austin in 1917. She moved away for a little bit to Taylor, and we have this beautiful photo of her when she is when she was crowned queen of the 16 de Septiembre festival there in Taylor, and she's just so regal looking. It makes me want to bring that back to her.
Can I interrupt?
Yes.
Can you, most people don't know what 16 de Septiembre
sure.
is. Can you unpack that for us?
Yeah. It's the celebration of Mexico's independence from Spain. And it's celebrated in Texas also as a means of kind of recognizing and celebrating the connection that Texas has with Mexico and that ongoing relationship. So every year on September 16th, there's a big celebration, and it still goes on here in Austin at Fiesta Gardens.
Yeah, a lot of gringos think that Cinco de Mayo is Mexican Independence Day. It is not.
Every year I have to have that conversation.
I just wanted to set the record straight. Okay, so tell me more about Grandma Camacho.
Sure. So she was a dedicated volunteer for over 50 years. She was all about the youth. So she worked at Metz and Zavala, and then in the 60s throughout that time until her retirement, and then she just kept on, showing up and working with kids, chaperoning them. And then she was one of the first women and people in East Austin to open up her home to the youth as a safe house. So youth going to and from school always had a place to go. Yeah, and so that was really special.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we have folks who sometimes come into the History Center telling us stories about her and her role in their lives growing up.
Oh, fantastic. And are those being recorded as oral histories?
We have some, but, we have a lot of work to do on oral histories. So there's always, if we had a team of people who only did that, maybe we'd start filling in those gaps. But, yeah.
We have goals.
We do. There's always so many goals.
So, I would like to shift focus now on one of my personal heroes and a woman who is a hero to many women, Barbara Jordan. And can you tell me a little bit about? You said there's a book that you have enjoyed about Barbara Jordan.
Yeah, so for
Was
those
Ayshea.
who may not know much about Barbara Jordan, she was the first African-American woman to serve on the Texas Senate. In 1972, she was the first African-American woman from the South to be elected to Congress and served on the House of Representatives until 1979. And the book that I really love is a collection of her speeches, which is called Speaking the Truth with Eloquent Thunder. It's available at the public library. It has speeches from the 1974 statement on the articles of impeachment during the Richard Nixon hearings. There's also speeches from some of maybe her more controversial work within communities of color, like her work on the U.S. Commission on Immigration Reform, which made a distinction between legal and illegal immigrants here in the state of Texas. So I believe we have a clip from one of the speeches.
Absolutely, yeah. I found this on the History Center's YouTube channel. This is Barbara Jordan's address at the LBJ Library in 1988. It's about a 2-minute clip.
One nation, indivisible. Colon. True or false? Rhetoric or reality? One nation, indivisible, true or false, rhetoric or reality. Now, you know those words, one nation, indivisible, come out of the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. One nation. We want to be one. We want to be single. We want to have a single end, a single goal, a single purpose. We would like that. We would like for that single end, goal, purpose to be the common good. That is what we would like. What a great day it would be if, for just an instant, we could suppress our preoccupation with self, with private wishes, private desires, private gains, profit. What a great day it would be if for just an instant we could forget about I, me, and think about us, we, community, the public interest, the common weal. That would be terrific.
My name is Blair Parsons, and I'm a librarian at the Central Library. Each week I highlight a few programs for adults that are happening around the Austin Public Library. Our full list of programs may be found on the library's events calendar. Express Yourself Through Media and Technology continues Saturday, March 17th at the St. John Branch Library. Latinitas and the St. John Branch welcome the whole family to participate in 6 weeks of free workshops to explore media and technology for self-expression. The March 17th workshop will focus on entrepreneurship, and the March 24th program will discuss activism. The next offering of Express Yourself Through Media and Technology is Saturday, March 17th from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. at the St. John Branch Library. The Central Library begins a new film discussion series Tuesday, March 20th. Talking Pictures will show a film every other month and discuss in community after. The first selection is Man on Wire. This Oscar-winning film is about Philippe Petit, a French tightrope artist and magician, and his experience walking illegally between the World Trade Center's Twin Towers in 1974, a feat some consider the artistic crime of the century. Talking Pictures will be at the Central Library Tuesday, March 20th from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Hey there, Austin. Teen Program Specialist Michael Harley from the Downtown Central Library here. Spring break isn't over yet, And neither is Teen Tech Week. On Thursday, March 15th at 2:30 p.m., the Carver branch will lead teens in building BristleBots. All it takes is a toothbrush, motor, and a little bit of circuitry, and all the materials will be provided. On Friday, March 16th at 2 p.m., here at the Central Library, I'll have cameras and set pieces out for stop-motion animation activities. And on Saturday, March 17th at 2 p.m., Bloxmob will be visiting Central to show teens how to build their own app from the ground up without even one line of coding. More details for Teen Tech Week and additional programs can be found at library.austintexas.gov/events.
This is Ann Minner, Managing Librarian at the Old Quarry Branch. I get to highlight some information for families this week. After a busy voting season in several locations and spring break, story times begin again next week system-wide. Storytime programs introduce young children to books, rhymes, music, and other fun activities. Austin Public Library is proud to offer programs matched to the typical attention spans and developmental levels of different ages of children. We'll have toddler time, preschool time, sensory story time, pajama time, books and babies, music and movement, Spanish story time, and all ages story time. We're also offering various dual language story times. We are really looking forward to seeing everyone. More details are at library.austintexas.gov/storytimes.
Co-op would like to thank the following restaurants for donating food to sustain our volunteers during our membership drive.
Corriente at 621 East 7th Street.
Threadgill's Old No. 1, 6416 North Lamar, Austin.
Garden Spot, 9415 Burnett Road.
Church's Chicken, 1150 Airport Boulevard.
Cherrywood Coffee House at 1400 East 38th and a half Street.
Counterculture, 2337 East Cesar Chavez.
Eastside Pies, 5312 Airport Boulevard, Suite G, Austin.
The ABGB, 1305 West Old Torf.
Empanadas, 1924 East 38th and a half Street.
Thundercloud Subs, 13776 Research Boulevard.
Manja Pizza, 12001 Burnett Road, Suite D.
You're listening to Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show on Co-op 91.7 FM and KOOP.org. Radio for people, not for profit.
Support for Co-op comes from the University Presbyterian Church, located at 2203 San Antonio Street, presenting the Uplift Jazz Concert on Friday, March 16th at 7:30 p.m. Doors at 7. The evening features the local talents of the Elias Haslanger Quartet and the Daniel Dufour Trio. Proceeds from the concert will help the church to continue to provide basic services for less fortunate Austinites. More info and tickets at upcaustin.org.
Hey, welcome back to Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show right here on Co-op 91.7 FM and streaming, of course, at koop.org. So before those announcements, which are fabulous, we listened to an excerpt from Barbara Jordan's address at the LBJ Library in 1988. And I still get spine tingles when I hear her. She's just such an incredible speaker, and the things that she says are so inspiring. And a lot of what she said, I feel like could be relevant today still. So the complete speech is actually on the Austin History Center's YouTube channel, and details about that are at library.austintexas.gov/social. That lists all the social media for the History Center as well as the Austin Public Library. And so now we're going to jump right back into our conversation with archivists Ayshea Khan and Amanda Hasso, who work at the Austin History Center, which is a part of the Austin Public Library. So welcome back, ladies.
Thank you.
And in honor of Women's History Month, we are talking about women, female role models in the community. And so both of you have taken on some pretty amazing leadership roles in our community. Amanda, you serve on the Cultural and Lifelong Learning Outcome team for the city. Can you talk a little bit about that team and your role?
Sure, yeah. So the past 10 months, this project has been going on citywide. It's for the strategic planning team. Well, I'm part of the strategic planning team, and there are 6 outcomes. So this was just adopted last week, actually, by City Council. So we'll see how this is implemented going down the line. But there are 6 outcomes, which included economic opportunity and affordability, health, safety, just government that works for all, mobility, and then finally culture and lifelong learning, which is what I was a part of. And I was one of 7 team members on that. And I was brought on as a subject matter specialist. And that was really kind of an eye-opening experience because I realized how much I have at my fingertips at the Austin History Center and how much other city departments could benefit from using what we have. And how also I learned how invisible we are within the larger city. So once I got to start speaking with people about the kind of work that we do, I feel like we kind of made a presence for ourselves. But I was really able to use what I've learned through working with some of Austin's Latinx communities in the realms of cultural preservation and access and bring it to the table there. So these larger conversations that we were having in this team was talking about the lack of equity across the outcomes and the significance of building trust and relationships within our communities. And I think as a community archivist, I really have outreach and community engagement are such crucial parts of the work I do. So, we met with a ton of community members, task force commissioners. We read so many reports that other departments have put together throughout the years. And we were really able to come up with some metrics and strategies that we hope will help influence how our budget processes occur over the next few years. So we're really hoping that this kind of helps guide the city in the next 3 to 5 years. And it also kind of helped break down the silos that we have across departments. I often feel like I'm in my own special little world at the History Center. So it was nice to see what other people are doing, and we're really doing so many great things. But we aren't always great at communicating what we're doing to other departments. Yes. So I hope moving forward we'll be able to work a little more closely together.
So is that initiative that you were just talking about, is that tied in with the Breaking Library Silos in Austin, or is that a whole separate thing?
It's separate. So this is just city staff working on the strategic plan for the city. And Ayshea has a lot more to say about Breaking Library Silos if she wants to.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Can you talk to me about that a little bit?
So I was part of the coordinating committee for Breaking Library Silos for Social Justice, which was a workshop held in January, but is hopefully a long-term conversation that librarians, archivists from different silos within the information field, academic librarians, community archivists, public school librarians, that again, we come across the same issue. We were not really talking, we might be talking within our respective institutions, but not really breaking those barriers and having conversations about where there are gaps in our service, how we can better incorporate elements of social justice in our work as information professionals. And we were really fortunate to have Amanda on an opening panel for that workshop.
Right.
And we hope to have future workshops as well.
Fantastic. So for listeners that are just joining us, this is Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show on Co-op 91.7 FM and streaming at koop.org. We're here talking with Ayshea Khan and Amanda Jasso about their work as archivists with the Austin History Center and also their personal commitment to the community here in Austin. Did you have some other book recommendations as well for us, Ayshea?
Yeah. Well, in addition to the collection of speeches by Barbara Jordan, I'm a big fan of the Miss Marvel comic book series that was created by Sana Amanat, Stephen Wacker, and Willow Wilson and Adrian Alfana. Growing up, I'm half Pakistani, And I didn't have access to a lot of books of young girls who looked and identified like me. And I found myself really turning to a lot of science fiction or stories of the supernatural. I loved Star Trek and X-Men, but also, as I was a young adult, turned to the works by Octavia Butler. And so to see a comic book series that features a teen Pakistani Muslim girl fighting gentrification in Jersey City, I mean, it's sad, but I just never thought I would see that.
I want to read that. That sounds great.
And the whole series is available at the public library. And it's not just there, but it's being celebrated. It received the Hugo Award for Best Graphic Story in 2015. And Sana Amanat actually presented a copy to President Obama during the celebration reception for Women's History Month. So it's... I love it as an adult, and I've been hearing that children are really enjoying it as well. So it's very exciting.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, so all the books that we talk about on this show are listed on our website at library.austintexas.gov/volumes. There's a link says recommended on the air, and that's where the books can be found if anyone is interested. We were talking briefly before the show. You volunteer or have volunteered for a while now at the Austin Film Society.
Yeah, I originally came to Austin in 2011 to dabble in filmmaking and started working as a filmmaking mentor for the Austin Film Society. And while I'm really busy right now and don't have as much time, I have engaged in that work for a long time. They have after-school programs. I worked in Martin, Mendez, and Dobie Middle School. I worked briefly at Reagan High School and a handful of elementary schools as well. And they also have summer camp programming during the summer. And they're trying to expand their programming at Austin Public to be on the weekends as well. But it was script-to-screen filmmaking. I taught a lot of stop-motion animation. And my students in those middle schools really sort of inspired me to work in archives, where I was working with predominantly Black and Brown students, and I was feeling frustrated at the lack of accessible materials to teach film history and filmmaking from folks that looked like them. And so I was also the freelance lifestyle just was not sustainable for me, but
I had a similar experience.
I was definitely, I can still consider myself a storyteller, even if I'm working within an archive, and storytelling and authentic voices within the archive is still really important to me.
No, absolutely. Gosh, both of you just have such inspiring stories to tell about the work that you're doing, as well as the history of some of our figures locally here in Austin. So, if pretend that I was a young woman and I was looking to become an archivist, what piece of advice would you give to me? As a young person wanting to become an archivist, Amanda or Ayshea, whichever one of you, I don't know.
For practical advice, I would say find as many grants and scholarships as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And be prepared to not get a full-time job right away with benefits. But on a serious level, I would say making the connection between archives and social justice is a really natural fit. And I think if anyone is interested in social justice work, to really think about history first, because we really have to be rooted in history before we move forward and elevate ourselves above that.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And, women, we're half the world, so, our history should be half the history that we tell.
Exactly.
It doesn't always work out that way, but it is important. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. Thanks for listening to Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show. Special thanks to our producer, DJ Harris, and to the musicians who composed and performed our original theme song, Andrew Noble on violin, Kirk Duvall on guitar, and Mike Wheat on percussion. And thanks to you, our listeners. Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show, airs Wednesday afternoons at 2:30 on Co-op 91.7 FM and koop.org. If you catch us mid-show, full episodes and other details can be found at library.austintexas.gov/volumes.